Hello, this is Jennifer Carroll with the Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative, and I have with me Miss Rebecca Howe and Miss Carrie Thornburg from Oakview Elementary, and they are sharing with us their Activating Catalytic Transformation, or ACT, theory of action, their progress, and their results to date. So we're really looking forward to hearing from them. All right, so who's going to start out telling us about the work that you guys have been engaged in?
Okay, I will start. My name is Rebecca Howe, and I'm the principal at Oakview, and this is our first year participating in the ACT program. So the whole process was new to us, but like I said, we just got back into the KVET cohort last year. We actually were with a different cohort, so this was new to us. And we were actually the only school in our district that has participated in this. So hopefully some more people will see the benefits, the budget that you get, and it will really gain some momentum in our district. What we did is we decided to look at our data to determine what was the biggest need in our building. And collectively, we decided that we wanted to look at student engagement because we as a staff were not satisfied with the results that we were seeing in growth. We have a lot of good systems in place and we were doing a lot of the right things, but we didn't feel like we were getting the targeted results that we wanted. So we really wanted to take a deep dive and try to figure out why that was happening. So we looked at the data that we looked is all listed here. We looked at attendance, homeless. We actually did a 3-question school survey where we asked the kids, do you like your school? Are you glad that, are you happy when you come to school? And is there somebody that you can relate with or talk with when you're there? So we really looked at those very carefully. And we found out that kids overwhelmingly, they like our building. They want to be there. That wasn't the question. So again, we had to ask ourselves, if we've already won half the battle, kids want to get up and be here. So why is it that we don't see the growth that we want? We also looked at teacher certification checks, just how many years experience, what degrees do you have, what endorsements do you have, like to make sure that we were utilizing people in the best positions in the building. We looked at our free and reduced lunch count, our IEP caseloads. We are the EBD school for our district, so we have a very high population of EBD students. We have actually 5 individual units in our school. So we wanted to make sure that maybe that data wasn't getting skewed somewhere in there. We looked at K-Prep, we looked at MAP, Brigance. We have found progressively, we went from about 3 years ago, all of our Brigance data, our kids were ready. They were coming to school ready. And now we have seen a consistent decline, that our kids are coming to us more and more unprepared to be in a educational school-like setting. We also looked at teacher-made assessments. We looked at common assessment data. And a big one that I wanted the teachers to pay attention to, and we probably paid as much attention to this, if not more, was the connection between honor roll, report cards, and K-Prep data. That if our report cards were flooded with a bunch of A's and B's, then we should have had a bunch of D's and P's on K-Prep. Mm-hmm. That we had to really make sure that we weren't sending out a mixed message to the homes that, their kids are actually better prepared or further advanced than they are because they've been on the honor roll, consistently the A honor roll every year they've been in school, but yet there's novice and apprentice performance markers on their K-Prep scores. So we really wanted to look and make sure that we were giving a really clear perception as to the grade correlation to the assessment data.
Wow.
Those were some key things that we really looked at.
That's a lot of assessment data to look at. Did you do this in PLC meetings, staff meetings, all the above?
All the above. We did that in PLCs. We did that in staff meetings. As data would roll out after a MAP window, that would be what would drive the PLC agendas. You get the autopsy data, the K-Prep data, that would drive the data assessment at that time. So we did it in individualized sessions, and sometimes the groups would be as small as 2 or 3 people, and sometimes the groups would be as large as 40 people. So it just really depended on what we were looking at and the date and how it was falling in place.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Okay, so this screen is just, I felt like I just needed to include it. This was our broad when we very first sat down, and really it's not changed a whole lot. I just sent you a revision, but I only tweaked the micro credentials. We are just in our first year, like I said, so we are not a 3, 4, 5 year ACT school. This will drastically change as we continue to go through. There's two specific things that I want to come out of it, and that is that we get engaged in the micro-credentials at my building. We're still really unfamiliar with that, partly because we have a lot of things that were already going on, and I don't want to pile, but I understand the value of that because that is so personalized, individualized learning for those professionals. So we will get to that point, and then I also want to work specifically with you and with KVEC to help my school to develop that TLAC, those Teach Like a Champion, that playbook. Maybe print some kind of flip chart, bind something, or get something published. Use some of that budget money to get that published, to get that into my teachers' hands. So this is a big, broad, wordy, a lot.
Good. So the theory of action, this does a really good job of taking it from the problem that you're trying to solve to the inputs that you have, to the resources that you already have available. So things that you are doing, you have a house system, you have teachers who are using data notebooks with students, you all are engaged in regular ongoing staff meetings and PLCs. So you were able to take all of those inputs then and put those in this theory of action of what each role group is going to do in order to get to your expected short and long-term outcomes. So I really like those deliverables that are there in the expected measurable outcomes about the grade level aligned instruction, the active engagement, the progress toward grade level goals, and then also a tangible resource that your teachers will develop to highlight their own strengths and talents around those instructional strategies. They'll then lead that into long-term changes in the whole landscape, so that now that you're creating a system that really focuses on student engagement all throughout their learning pathway, and then that culture that you all have really already got a great handle on a great school culture, but infusing that with more active engagement strategies such as Teach Like a Champion. So this is a great job.
Exactly. We did a lot of very intentional work with the Teach Like a Champion. We actually did that book study collectively as faculty. We broke that down into 3 segments. We did like 20 at a time, and then we would come back together, and I made them share that in multiple different ways. And I guess I say made because I really didn't give a lot of choice. There's just certain things that I like the word voluntold. And I was very specific. Look at these 20, and don't tell me about 5 that you're already doing, because you're a great teacher and you're already doing some great things. Because everybody has pockets of greatness. But the first time we did it, I got a lot of feedback about 5 that they do. And even myself, maybe I wasn't clear enough, and I really wanted to get the message. I don't want 5 that I see you do all the time. I want 5 that you've never done. I want to know how you could implement that and what that would look like in your room. And what we finally did is we sat down, Nancy and I, and looked at the highest volume. Like, these are the 20, I think we did 15 or 20. These are the 15 or 20 that consistently people say, this is how this is going to impact my learning. And those are the ones that we want to put in that playbook. Those are the ones that we want, because we know there's 50 of them. We know there's but we want, what are the ones that we can consistently go to that keeps our purpose intentional and focused on engagement, that we are losing time in compliance. We think we're engaged, but we're not. And that was really what we focused on.
Good. All right. You're doing a great job. So we kind of already talked around these a little bit, but are there some things that you want to lift out?
I'll go ahead and take this. Yeah, when we were talking, you have touched on a bunch of them, but the grade level PLCs, we wanted to make sure those were intentional, but we were trying to develop, and like our instructional tasks, really we want to make sure that they were focusing on the new teacher project and using those rubrics, because we're trying to make sure that the students who are engaged are real. When we say engagement, I don't even think everyone understood what they thought engaging was, to be honest. So really starting from there, I mean, they had their lessons, they had their tasks, but focusing on engaging students from beginning to end, and actually using that project, and really so that the students demonstrate their learning, and then the teachers aren't just, delivering in a white room and then, okay, I did this, now we're done. I mean, it was, we're really focusing on that in PLCs, and PLCs became more energized and active, which has been one of our short-term objectives. Another thing you talked about, teach like a champion. A lot of that and another kind of coincides with another short-term objective, which was peer observations, which I think, we were working on watching, what do I do? Okay, these are the things I do. But actually feeling comfortable observing their peers and walking in randomly and actually seeing how they're engaging students and learning from them. I mean, and seeing, wow, okay, I just stick to these things I do. I think I'm great at it. But peer observations really, we focused on that, and they were intentional. I mean, and again, because they have to get comfortable with it before they just start randomly going. But Miss Howell has always said, we've said it for years, but until we scheduled them and who was going to observe who, but now you can see teachers observing randomly all the time and taking notes and really learning from other teachers, and opening up to say, to trying something new and not just stay in their own little bubble in their classroom. So again, we talked about the credentials, the micro credentials. I find that I'm very excited to do that myself, and we look forward to doing that and showing teachers like the benefit from the micro credential and continue learning, but to make it something that's personal to them, that it's not just everybody going to the same PD, but it's something that this is a growth area for me, and this is what I can learn, and I can, show I can earn this micro credential, and it's very intentional as well. Of course, we wanted to show, we want to increase independent reading of grade level complex tests. I wish we could show more data of that right now. I mean, but our students are growing, and we have really driven that we want our teachers to challenge our students and have high expectations for them, and not just we want them to understand how important it is for kids to understand complex tests and be a little uncomfortable, and how we can do questioning and things like that can lend to that. Again, you discussed already our learning our goal notebooks, but that is, students feel comfortable about knowing where they are and seeing data and say, it's in the classroom and I'm here and I really need to be here, and we're not sugarcoating it, and, we're really challenging them to understand where they are, but where they need to be, and really how far they can go, and not just feel comfortable. Develop grade level line instructional strategies, provide students choice. That's a big thing. We can't just we want to differentiate instruction for all learners. I mean, we do have things with a lot of our special ed students. Again, I'm a special education teacher as well as an assistant principal here. It's a dual role, but I see challenging our students that are, our special ed students or with behaviors. When we challenge them and provide them choice, you see our students with behaviors, we don't have you can walk into any classroom at Oakview and not pick out the student with the behavior disability most of the time, because we understand we provide them choice and where our instruction is aligned for the students. Our active learning strategies, our parent events. We would love to have more parent events, but we're getting our parents involved all the time. We are showing them and providing videos and different things that we're doing, because sometimes it just looks, like when you see some of the things that we're doing in the classrooms, it just looks like fun, but it's very intentional, and we want to show them what they're learning, and kids are excited to tell them as well. And but I think our short-term objectives, I think we really have been working on them, and we're meeting our short-term objectives. Again, just the micro credentials is something that we're a growth area still for us. But our next slide is our long-term objectives.
You're doing a great job of explaining these and showing the connections between them all. You're doing a great job.
Well, in our long-term goals, again, these are very, they're very broad, and we're going to revisit them, of course, but everything that we're doing lends to these basic things. I mean, we want to have active student engagement. I mean, that's it. We want to make sure that we're just not going through the motions, and then we want to use our data. We want to really make sure that we have high expectations and rigor. That's pretty much it. We want everything we do is intentional, and that we see where we are and how we can grow, so that we can, it's an integrated experience. What we do is really, we're focusing on the kids, but their growth has everything to do with how we're willing to grow and what we're willing to focus on and change. So, you know, we want, of course, novice reduction 100% and 0 office discipline referrals. One of the things with that and long-term objectives, I can speak to discipline referrals as a behavior specialist in the school. I don't want any discipline referrals. So our culture is designed, you know, again, I can say integrated experience. We can make or break any situation. So we are focused on making sure that, you know, when you have engagement, you have less discipline referrals. I mean, you have less behavior problems when you're keeping your students excited and engaged. And you're providing an environment in which they feel comfortable, they feel safe, and they feel, you know, they feel that they can meet those expectations, but you're there to support them, but not just do it for them. So, and a lot of our students who have, you know, behavior concerns or disabilities are very, very bright students, and they get to show what they know and have fun doing it. So,
wow, that's good. And I think you hit a lot of important points there, and the whole connection between the engagement and deeper levels of learning and students who are not misbehaving because they are engaged in that. Those are very good connections between all of those parts of your plan.
To transition into talking about some of the activities and the difference that our classrooms look like now, I would just like to point out that what was so, I don't know the right word, but I want to say almost scary to me is whenever, like I said, data doesn't lie. I mean, sometimes it's not pretty, you know, but it's data and it's black and white and it's on paper. And, you know, what really stuck out to me and it really kind of made me sad was to see a kiddo that we had for 3 years when we start getting data in 3rd grade, and they were proficient in 3rd grade and they're leaving us proficient in the 5th grade. And to me, that was sad because I know that my teachers work hard and I know that we have provided education for that child, but to think that we offered that child no growth, that we didn't make that child any less, but we didn't increase that child's capacity, that was huge for me. And that was something that I wanted to make sure that we really focused in on, getting away from that sit and get compliance instruction. My lesson plans are great. My lesson, all my things are there. Here's my objective. Here's my anchor chart. Here's my activity, but where's my growth? And I really started paying attention to what our classrooms looked like, and it was a lot of teacher-led instruction. A lot of teacher-led instruction that was quality. All the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed because I've got really good teachers. But it was a lot of teacher-led, not a lot of student choice. No way to accurately tell. I think like Carrie alluded to earlier, we had to redefine what we thought engagement was, and we really found out it was compliance. Basically, 3/4 of your children will do what you ask them to do because you're the teacher, they're the student. But how engaged and connected are they to the learning? And you specifically having them do was 2 totally different things. So next series of slides is just going to be, I thought, some of the snapshots to capture some of our best images of what's happening now when you walk into a classroom. It took me as the leader of the building with this, when you want to do a drastic change to your instructional practice, teachers have to feel like that they have an ability to fail, just like we tell kids. And I constantly was telling my teachers, get out of your comfort zone. If you are still continuing to feel comfortable in your instruction every day, you're still not doing what we're asking you to do. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You've got to do something you've never done before. And guess what? You're going to teach a lesson. It's going to be terrible. Kids aren't going to learn. And guess what? You just won't do that one again. But you have to do something different. So looking at these slides, like this was the first one there was the kids were actually using Chromebooks and to check QR codes. There were QR codes along the room. At first, this is a 5th grade classroom. They introduced vocabulary notebooks. And to be honest with you, first time I saw them, the old school dinosaur in me was like, it's a new concept, but it's still just writing a bunch of words down. I didn't like it at all. I'm just being honest. Miss Barbara and I talked about it, and when she explained it to me and I saw what it was, it's amazing. And then when you throw in technology and these kids are going to have to go around the room like a scavenger hunt and scan these QR codes to find their words and then come up with synonyms and antonyms and record their data and then share and peer share their data, that's a totally different experience than sitting in the classroom doing 5 vocabulary words a day and then just going on. So these kids were loving it. They were absolutely loving it.
I can see in their notebooks that the ones that are in the floor, they're doing the Frayer model for some of their vocabulary words, which is a wonderful way of approaching vocabulary. So that is great.
And then this next slide, oh, be still my heart. Just look at this one. Student-led instruction, that little baby with that microphone on that stage. You can look at these kids in this room. Do those kids look engaged to you?
Yeah, they kind of look like they're into it.
It is. This was one of my favorite. This right here was one of my favorite. This is what we see more consistently than not at Oakview. If that, that is just a complete different shift of, and you know what, for teachers, that's hard. That is very, very hard for teachers to look at what's happening in that room because they're not in a teaching role. They're just in a facilitating role, which is exactly where we want them to be. But that's a very hard relinquishment of power. We're all educators in this chat, and that's very, very hard for people. So, but they have embraced it, and they are doing such a well job. It's going phenomenal, actually.
It's a beautiful classroom too.
Yeah, I tell them to pay a lot of attention to that, and Carrie, you jump in anytime you want to, but like I tell them, you know what, it doesn't hurt to make things pretty. It just does. If you want your classroom to be energetic and you want your kids to have, then you know what, it doesn't need to look like a hospital ward. It needs to look like a place that a kid's going to want to be in. And that's the reason why I say, the stages come from Ron Clark. We have classrooms that have flexible seating. You'll see that later. I told him, I said, whoever said that a kid has to sit in a desk on a chair with the pencil in their hand? No, this is, I don't care if they're laying on their back underneath the table.
You can see them sitting on this table. They're sitting on this table right there.
Yes, exactly. They're on top of the table in that third picture. But right here, what these kiddos were doing is, this was in Mr. Asar's room, and he's a 4th grade teacher, and they actually got to read a book of choice because they want to read, and then they used technology, iMovie, to make a movie trailer advertising their book. Having to talk about the characters and the settings and all of that to advertise this book, and it was phenomenal what these kids were doing.
Yes, I can tell. I've been in, the reason I'm smiling so much is I've had the opportunity to be in your classrooms, and I know that this is not just a Kodak moment, that this is stuff that's going on in those classrooms every day. And I'm just so proud to see this work being shared like this. It's great.
Oh, this was 3rd grade. This is 3rd grade math glow day. Like I said, and I Carrie, jump in, but I tell the teachers, if there's something that you need, if it's something that you need that will make your instruction better, there's no limit. Don't ever think, oh, I can never ask for that because that costs so much. You never know. I might have money, So I tell them, always think big, always think outside the box. I went totally away from just giving that mandatory, everybody gets $500 for instructional fund. I don't do that. I don't do that at all. I tell them, if you need it, ask me. So like the days of just absorbing $300 per classroom just because that's the way we always have done it is gone. Yeah. So the POs that I see are for things like this. I get POs for glow sticks and black lights and tarps to cover the walls and, like I said, flexible seat microphones, things that like sunglasses to be spies and looking, like to have room transformation. So even the spending, the funding, everything is completely shifted from what POs of ink pens and paper clips and colored cardstock are totally gone in my building.
Yeah, let's buy 500 more glue sticks, even though we've got them coming out our ears.
Exactly. And exactly this day, actually this is 3rd grade, but this when peer observation, like the kindergarten teachers actually did this as well. So they walked in, saw how they did it, and felt comfortable in pulling something like that off and just transit and made it theirs. So, that's one of the things. They saw the excitement in the kids. They saw how they could make it theirs. And then they took this idea for, they had a glow day as well. So it's exciting. And, and I guess it's just not always new iPads or I need the fanciest new, whatever they just tried to sell me, I need to buy that. No, this is just them using just a little bit of, and just little dotted paint. So I think that it's very exciting to see that I just have to buy this and then watch it sit on the shelf. And then it's actually they're purposeful. The spending's purposeful and intentional just as well. So
that looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is second grade. This is flexible seating. Actually, this teacher started flexible seating last year, and she had a different girl that she worked with as a second grade teacher, who now is in the library. She's my librarian. But the reason why I even started that story is, like, I just want to show what I mean by flexibility as far as what I try to foster in my teachers. When they implemented this last year, both teachers were doing flexible seating. After Christmas, one of these teachers said, I can't do this. I cannot, I don't like it. It didn't work the way I thought it would. And you know what? We put tables back in her room. We put chairs back in her room. We took the flexible seating away. We let one teacher keep it. One teacher didn't. That's what, as far as like, there's no way to cookie cut. When you're asking people to do things differently, you still have to let them work within their personalities. This actually is a second grade math room. And so you can see they're in the floor. They're like one of these tables she bought up here in the top corner, like a living room end table she got at a yard sale. So I mean, it's just, you know, whatever works. You still have kids sitting at traditional seats, as you can see, but you've also got them laying in the floor, and you've got them sitting, you know, in non-traditional ways. And like I said, I don't care if they're on their back, as long as they're learning math. That's all that matters. Take the focus off of the, I don't want to say off of the teaching, but put it on the learning. Put it on the learning. The focus has always got to be on the learning, and it will completely shift everything else around.
Yes.
And I think with this, some teachers get nervous. Some teachers get nervous about using flexible seating, like kids are just going to start playing around. But actually, they're so engaged when they get to choose how they're comfortable and how they, you know, working, and they're just comfortable, and they're engaged, and they're not playing around and throwing the balls around, or if it's a chair rolling around. They are engaged, and it's exciting. So, and then the other teachers see that, incorporate it somehow.
Right. The novelty quickly wears off, and then they're using the seat for what it's meant to be for. So I see kids sitting on yoga balls. I see kids sitting on mats. I see kids with lap desks. That's just wonderful.
This was kids that are learning about deserts and climates, and this literally was just like a brush pile, like a rolling brush that was in Miss Smith.
Tumbleweed.
Yeah, that's exactly what the model was. Here's a tumbleweed, and like they're just looking at rocks and things like that. But notice there's no textbooks, there's no handouts, there's none of that. There are other ways. Like I can teach a kid how to read if I had a soup can label. You know, there's things that you have to get away from that traditional thought that we came through the system learning to be educators. All the things that we learned along the way, we're kind of just doing everything new now, everything new. And we're doing it better. I think we're just doing it better.
Everything doesn't have to have a worksheet, does it?
Exactly. This was actually a multiplication division breakout room. The kids had like you know how those rooms work. They had to open the envelope, figure out do the math, get the correct answer to know where to go to the next spot in the room. They notice they had microphones in their hands that they have to share out. They got like time down. You got so much time to figure out your problem, tell us your answer. Then everybody would rotate around. So of course, I mean, needless to say, they were all in, you know, and we had doing breakout rooms all across the building. Everybody, not just certain teachers. We have this, it's not just still in pockets. Everybody's doing different things now.
That is great.
Oh, Miss Carrie, you take this one.
This is our kindergarten room transformation. And the one thing, it's exciting. I think, you know, we are implementing even just daily different engagement opportunities, different things that we're doing in centers. But when the teachers stay at night and transform their rooms and they come in the next day, it just is a way to make it all stick. You know, I mean, I think it's exciting, and it like creates a magical moment for the kids, and they're sharing we did this throughout the day. We did, you know, we did ELA, and we did math. We did reading, writing, everything was in this candy land. And again, it's just a transformation. Like it just sparks them a little bit. I mean, you're still doing things in the games, but kids are actually, they're actually in a stage they feel safe. So a lot of these little guys, they feel confident, and some of them didn't really even know as much content as they needed to, but they wouldn't have answered that question if they were just in a regular large group. and with white walls, but they were willing to get up and make mistakes if they made mistakes, but they were so confident in being a part of this little magical time. So you see that a lot, and you get to see what kids know, but they had a blast with it. They love when they transform their room, and we do this multiple times throughout the year. It's not just this one time. We've done it, a number of times in a number of grades. Intermediate and primary. So it's exciting, and the kids, no matter how old they get, they love it. So it's exciting.
I got to see the Candyland, and it was wonderful. And it was
they did a Frozen one.
Right, they did.
The kindergarten specifically did Frozen when Frozen 2 had the kids loved it.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they
did. And the teachers love it too. The teachers really love it. I think once it's a lot to take in, and there are some teachers that, especially when they work in partners, you can see one teacher all going to get it, and the other one's like, well, maybe not. But then once that other teacher sees how exciting and magical it is, the next room transformation was much easier, and they both, they all got excited and said that little extra work means so much extra. Just a little extra the output is so much. So.
Yeah. And it was not just a kindergarten effort as far as decorating the rooms. Even on the 3rd grade, the kindergarten, the 5th, every time everybody has ever done a room transformation, it's all hands on deck after school. There was probably 10, 12 people that came and went to help get that accomplished, and it got accomplished in maybe 2 hours. It's not an astronomical amount of work whenever you have total buy-in of your building.
Well, I think if somebody is interested in doing this, they ought to talk to you guys, because it was phenomenal. And it's, I was so excited that day, and I was taking pictures and texting them to everybody and saying, you will not believe this about how beautiful it is and how engaged the kids are. So it was wonderful. Okay. So this is what Carrie and I was talking about. I really am, I'm a little bit bummed, I'm going to be honest, that we're not going to have K-Prep data. I really am saddened about that, because like I said, we're a first year ACT school, and I just see how tremendously different our classrooms look in the course of 1 year, that I really wanted to have that data. So I am really disappointed that we won't. But things that I can look at now that are tangible, that I think is a direct relationship to what's happening, is we don't have office referrals. And when I say we have 0, and we are the behavior school. Okay, we have 1/3 of our kids have an IEP, and 70% of those kids are behavior only. But like Carrie alluded to earlier, I would challenge anybody to walk into my building and walk into my classrooms and be able to identify who those kids are, because those kids are high flyers, they're achieving. The expectation is no different from child A to child Z at Oakview. And we don't have office referrals, and I think a lot of that is the training and professionalism of my teachers, understand the difference between behavior and therapy. There's a connection there that, you've got to really look at when are you dealing with a behavior, or when are you dealing with a disability, that there's other things that you can work through. So office referrals are gone. That's great. Another thing that I see that I made an effort when I was walking through doing walkthroughs, I specifically was looking at student engagement when I was walking into the classrooms versus what I used to see, and look at that number of the ones that I sit and I did data, 62% increase, 100% student engagement was happening in the classrooms on random walkthroughs. They're not scheduled, they're random. So that was amazing for me. And then this is just a broad statement, because like I said, the COVID crisis has taken over the schools, taken over the world. So I don't have the best of data, and I really want to get a better sense of, we just have a greater amount of student-led learning as well as student choice learning. But do I have a really good piece of data, a number I can give you? No, but I can tell you that we do, and that it's happening, and that it's a direct result as to what we've done in that building. Yeah. That fact that you have 0 office referrals is amazing. And the fact that 62% increase in student engagement, and that people have a common now context for what that student engagement should look like. That's very powerful, because when people say student engagement, your folks aren't just thinking about rows and people and kids being quiet. They're thinking about active student engagement that is impacting deeper learning. So I think that's a very powerful statistic, because underneath it means everybody understands what this is and what it looks like.
Absolutely. Okay, so next, there's our sweet little girl, Miss Carrie. Our next steps, since we're not going to have K-Prep data, we are going to have to get creative, as far as, what pieces of data, and specifically, if you look at what's the next best thing we have, it's going to be our map data, as far as giving us indicators. Are kids making progress? Are they working toward benchmarks? So we're definitely going to do a deeper dive into looking at that map data. And you know what? We even have our first round of that quicker than we have K-Prep. So there is a silver lining to that one, because we always have that first score back first. We are going to continue the development through partnership with KVEC and you, Miss Jennifer, to develop that playbook. That's something that I want to get in the teachers' hands before school starts next year. And we are definitely going to continue to keep utilizing the new teacher project rubrics. I think they are fabulous. Whenever we sit and did that as a staff in a staff meeting, it was a long one. We were there for 2.5 hours probably that first time we did it. But after that, then we started doing it in PLCs. So it wasn't, but that first day, the teachers working all the way through. And you know what? I did the one that was the Venn diagram, and everybody was like, oh, this is a Venn diagram, and they're comparing and they're contrasting, and this is great. And everybody was floored when they realized the only thing that was doing, that kid was regurgitating text out of a book. Like, no, just because it's the Venn diagram, it is not rigorous. And it was eye-opening. Wouldn't you agree, Carrie, that day that everybody was like, oh, this is a 3, this is a 4, this, no.
No, we didn't. I don't think it, just like we didn't really have an idea of what engagement is, I don't think understanding what rigorous lessons
are. So we are definitely
engagement
working with those rubrics. Definitely.
Great. That is great.